Apparently, I'm a trust fund baby that lives off daddy's money, but here's my actual story. Hi, I'm Sarah, and I'm from a super small town where the only thing to do is drive around and go to McDonald's. I dreamt of getting out of my town every painful day of high school, knowing that there was more out there for me. One day in 2017, I decided that I had enough, and I set out 6 months to save money making subs and pizza, and then in August of 2018, I packed my car and drove across the country to live with a family member in San Diego. I worked at a hotel full-time and a surf shop and walking dogs part-time. I became obsessed with the idea of van life and planned and saved to buy a bus and turn it into a home. One weekend, I drove up to Yosemite National Park, and this trip changed the entire course of my life. I learned about seasonal work and how you can live and work in national parks and around the country. I completely fell in love with Yosemite and began applying for any position I qualified for. A few months later, in July of 2019, I packed my car and I headed up to my new home. I worked in a hotel in the Valley full-time for minimum wage and paid $80 a month for shared housing with other employees. Throughout my time here, I explored Yosemite and its surrounding areas as often as I could. I used my starter Canon to document what inspired me, and I started posting on TikTok and Instagram. I was obsessed with visiting new places and experiencing new scenery. Specifically, I am so inspired by nature and the outdoors. It has always been the core of my interest. While I was living in Yosemite, I learned about volunteering on farms in exchange for accommodation, and I got accepted for a volunteer opportunity in Hawaii on a fruit farm. So in February of 2020, I worked 15 hours a week on a fruit farm and lived in a tent and explored Maui in my free time. I then flew to New York before getting a job offer in Alaska, and I took a 3-day train trip across the US so I could see even more of the country from the comfort of the train. I moved near Denali National Park, working at a small cafe and cabin resort as a server and a barista. Housing was provided for a cost, and once again, I explored the surrounding area on my time off and shared my experience on social media, through vlogs, and through my photography. I used my saved money to move to the Bay Area and buy a car, and rented a third of a room in Berkeley for $600 a month while working at a hotel and a cafe. I quickly realized that city life was not for me, so I turned my car into a home and hit the road in January of 2021. Not know how long I could maintain life on the road with no job, so I set up a seasonal job for the springtime to look forward to. In the meantime, I began door dashing, as well as I had one consistent brand deal on my social platforms. I drove all around the US, coast to coast, all alone and back, visiting new states, national parks, and cities. I met up with a bunch of other van lifers and creators, and I learned so much through them, and I was living about as free of a life as anyone could possibly live. And this lifestyle really suited me at 21. Still sharing my photography and journey, I now had a large enough audience that I could be a full-time creator, so I took the risk and left for a 1-week trip to Iceland, and it was one of the best experiences of my entire life. On the last day of the trip, I met my now ex, and I moved to the Netherlands, and I've spent the past 3.5 years in Europe and traveling around the world. I have loved living in Amsterdam, and I love the Netherlands dearly, but along the way I lost parts of myself between my relationship, financial struggles, and overall began to question my purpose and my career. There are certain aspects about life in the US that I have always missed, but for years I have just told myself that I'll need to live without them because I love Amsterdam so much that I could never imagine leaving. My appearance changed, I struggled financially, lost friends, lost confidence, and had no inspiration, and I felt like I lost my purpose. My relationship ended and I slowly got my spark back, but 2024 felt like an entire year of lessons and navigating hurdles and roadblocks of me trying to force life here to work for me. And when things continuously did not go as planned, it forced me to step back and view things from a greater perspective, and I began to contemplate what it is that I truly want. I gave myself permission for the first time to consider what life would be like if I moved back to the US and left the city that I am so attached to. I asked myself what is missing in the Netherlands: community, family, career advancement, and outdoor adventures. I then asked myself, can I really live without these things forever? And I faced the uncomfortable truth of no, I can't. Admitting this to myself felt like a weight lifted off, and suddenly everything felt better and my purpose became clear for the first time in a while, but it also felt terrifying. I contemplated the idea for days. Each and every day it felt more and more right for me. I began hinting the idea to friends and family, and as surprised as everyone was, they all told me that back in the US and in the national parks is where they see me thrive the most. I began looking at old photos and videos from my nomadic life in 2019 to 2021 and realized that I never got any closure for that wonderful chapter because I picked up and ran off and never looked back. In my heart, I know things could never be the same if I went back because I'm not 21 anymore, and I have changed immensely as a person. Times have changed, but I think returning to my old life is what's best for me. So I'm excited to announce that I am coming back in April of 2025, and I am moving to Seattle, Washington, where I will do van life part-time and continue to share my adventures here. However, if we lose TikTok, you can find me on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook, where I will be more active. I also want to say a huge thank you to those who have been with me since I was 20 and 21. I look back on that time period so fondly, and I'm so grateful for the love and support I've received on this app, and I'm so excited to pick my adventures back up again. Thanks for watching.